this week kicks off a big week around town, without a doubt, but feel like we're right in the middle of some awesome weeks. Great energy in the city of Columbia right now because of what's going on with Gamecock Athletics, obviously coming off a national championship in women's basketball, the parade on Sunday. Don't know if anyone at the concert on Friday night. Brett Young, Sam Hunt, Lily Rose, no country music fans in here. Come on, guys. Well, it was a great show. You missed out if you weren't there. But had a chance to meet some of those performers before the show, and all they wanted to talk about was SEC football and women's basketball, whether it be Sam Hunt, Brett Young, Lily Rose, all the artists that were there. So a lot of eyes on Columbia, South Carolina, and Gamecock Athletics right now. And then obviously that goes right into this week and what culminates this weekend with the spring game, but it's going to be a huge weekend around Columbia. Track and field has a meet on Saturday or this weekend that I know we want a lot of people at. Beach volleyball is in town. Baseball obviously had a great weekend in Gainesville last weekend and a huge win over North Carolina last week, and a big-time series coming up this weekend as well. So there's just a lot of energy and excitement in town right now, and we certainly want to do our part from a football standpoint on Saturday night. We want to make it a competitive game. That's what it'll be. We're going to do a draft on Thursday night, similar to what we did last year. That was popular with our players, and I had a couple of them call me on Sunday wanting to make sure that we were dividing the teams up and that it was going to be a competitive game. And I love that we have a bunch of competitors on our team that want to do that. So that's what we're going to do. We'll have the draft on Thursday nights. We're going to meet this afternoon as a staff and kind of talk all the logistics and particulars and coaches and whatnot, but want to make it fun for our guys. They've earned it and deserve that, and but want to make it competitive and get guys work, and that's another opportunity for us to get better. But it will be two true teams. If you remember, last year was a competitive game, finished in a tie, and the players refused to let the game finish in a tie. So we went to a 2-point play shootout so we could determine a winner. And hope Saturday night will be competitive also. Need it to be an awesome environment in there, as I've always said. So we got a bunch of recruits coming, and I turn on spring games across the country, and I see attendance where there might be 100 people in the stands, and I'm blessed to not work at a place where we have 100 people in the stands for the spring game. We need a lot. And I saw what some of our competitors in the SEC did last weekend and the crowds they had. We've got a lot of new faces on our football team that I know our fans are excited to see and want them to be able to get out and see them. And then we also have a lot of returning players that have been around this program for a while now that it'll be their last spring game and want to send them out in style. So encourage our fans to make a day of it in Columbia, get to all the sporting events, tailgate, have fun, then get over here on Saturday night for the spring football game as well. We're coming off a scrimmage on Saturday as well, got about 80 plays in. Got some really good work. Once again, we made the quarterbacks live for about a quarter of the scrimmage. Did some really good things. Thought those guys being live really accentuated or showed their strengths, being able to run, get themselves out of trouble. Did some good things. I thought we made progress offensively up front. So regardless of what the message board reports say, based on how the scrimmage went, thought we had a really good day up front on offense, and with the guys that were in there. We had some guys were banged up, and not everybody scrimmaged, but we got better as a team on Saturday. And like I told the players this morning, love the energy and the competitive spirit that they played with on Saturday. The only significant injury to come out of that is Zabari Sandy tore his ACL, unfortunately. Kind of I wouldn't say non-contact. He was engaged with a receiver that was blocking him and just kind of gave out on him as well. Hate that for him. He was coming off an injury and then got back out there. But like I told him on Saturday night when I talked to him, he's going to be a really good player for us. He's still young, and he'll be back as soon as possible. But hate that for Zabari. But other than that, we came out of the scrimmage fairly injury-free. And then need 3 good days this week on the practice field. Just had one. We got practice on Thursday, practice on Friday, spring game Saturday. So know it'll be an awesome weekend. And then finally, before opening up for questions, after that, we need to go right into another great week, culminating with the Beamer Ball on Saturday night, April 27th, which is open to anyone that wants to come, and tickets still remain. But it's an awesome event. If you haven't been to it, all the money goes towards our football enhancement fund from a Gamecock Club standpoint and all the things that we're trying to do as a football program. A lot of fun, music, dancing, dinner, out on the game field. So you can actually have basically your own party out on the field of Williams-Brice Stadium. It's been very popular for 2 years now. This year is going to be better than ever and bigger than ever, and even bumped into some Clemson fans a week ago that told me they came to the Beamer Ball last year and had an amazing time. So we're not trying to have Clemson fans take it over, but everyone's welcome, and it's an awesome time and a lot of fun for anybody that wants to come to that also. So that's the Beamer Ball on Saturday night, April 27th as well. So questions?
Before we get started,
Carolina
calls on Thursday.
And we have Carolina calls on Thursday night. Golly, so much going on, Steve. I can't keep up with it all. So, yes, from Backstreet's Grill, again, on Divine Street. So look forward to seeing many of you at Carolina calls on Thursday night.
Shane, got a few for you. First with Sandy, do you expect him to return this season with that ACL?
I would say that's doubtful. I wouldn't say no. I mean, if you remember last year, we had an injury in the spring game, and we were optimistic that we were going to be able to get him back before the season, and we weren't able to. So hopeful, not optimistic.
Are there anybody else for the game that you know will definitely not play? And by that, I mean like really from a two-deep perspective.
Yeah, I'll have a better idea really probably tomorrow, David. There's some guys that I would say absolutely aren't, guys that have been out for a while now with injuries. Obviously, Rocket, we've said all along, Juju, those guys. We'll see. We got some guys that got back out there today for the first time. We got some guys that didn't do anything today, but we're hopeful we'll be able to do something on Thursday. So no one that I say right now, other than the guys that have already been announced as long-term, there's no one new. But I'll have a better idea once we sit down as a staff and kind of see where guys are as we go into the rest of the week.
And lastly, transfer portal open today. And as you sit here right now, are there a position or positions that you know that you want to get out of this next window?
Yeah, I think always with the portal being open, you have to look at how you can make your team better, and that's my job as the head coach. If there's someone that fits what we're about on the field and off the field, it's my job as the head coach to try and get them in here into our program. We're like every program and every coach, David, in that every position we have a target number of guys that we want to have on scholarship. And some of those positions, some positions we're at that position, we're at that number. Other positions we're not. Offensive line right now, based on the target number of guys that we would like to have on scholarship, we're a couple under. Wide receiver right now, we're a couple under. There's some positions that we might be over, but certainly from a depth standpoint, being able to practice, have your full arsenal. Receiver and offensive line are two positions. Not that I'm saying we need to get better, but just from a depth standpoint, being able to practice, have a two deep, guys on a scholarship, those are positions that just we're not where we want to be as far as the minimum number of guys that we have on scholarship. Doesn't mean that we're in trouble if we don't add people there. No, but those would be a couple spots that we're looking at just from a depth standpoint for sure.
Shane, I've probably asked you this in the past, but on Saturday there'll probably be a player or two who has an incredible game, and naturally there'll be a portion of the fan base that will be very excited. How much stock do you put in the actual game, and how much stock does your coaching staff put into the previous 14 practices leading up to Saturday?
Yeah, I'd say it's a combination of both. I'm not one of those guys, Mike, that looks at the spring game and say it doesn't matter, because it does. It's another opportunity to go on the field and compete. It's an opportunity to get better. And some guys, frankly, they step up when the lights come on, if you will, and they're gamers. So there's a 14 practice body of work that obviously we put a whole lot of weight on, but we're not one of those people that just say, hey, let's just throw something out there entertaining and go home. I mean, we're competing, and we want to win. Each particular team does, and I think there's something to the fact that when there's people in the crowd, the lights are on, it's on television, that some guys step up and elevate their games, and really you notice them, and some guys you hopefully don't, but some guys maybe go the other direction. So I think it's a great indicator, and it's so important because as you guys have heard me say before, we don't get a preseason game in college football, and we don't get a scrimmage against another team. So for a lot of these guys, it'll be the biggest crowd they've ever played in, maybe. And for all of them, it'll be the biggest crowd we play in front of until we do it for real against Old Dominion in August. So it's a great barometer for individuals and how they perform in those situations, without a doubt.
Shane, do you look at Saturday as the chance to decide on your starting QB? Will that linger? And what's the philosophy? Because sometimes you do name it spring, sometimes you don't. But what's the philosophy in that situation of when you want to name a starter?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think certainly, just like to Mike's question, guys, whether it be quarterbacks or other positions, they have the ability when the lights come on to really step up and show, what, this guy's a gamer. And the quarterback position is no different. Obviously, we've been evaluating everything every single day since we started practice in March as well. As far as naming one and where we are, whatever we do, our players know that competition's a core value, so we will continue to compete at every single position through the summertime, through the month of August, preseason camp. We got guys that are returning starters like Debo Williams, but Debo knows he has to compete every day to continue to be the starting linebacker here at South Carolina. Nicky Manwari, DQ Smith, whoever, Tonka, TJ. But I think there's different philosophies. I've been in those situations before where you have a quarterback battle, and I had one at Oklahoma my first year there with a young man by the name of Austin Kendall and a guy that ended up being a pretty good quarterback by the name of Kyler Murray. And we had a quarterback battle that literally went until the middle of August as well, and Lincoln did not name a starting quarterback. I've been a part of other places where you name the starting quarterback because you want to have your team be able to rally around that guy kind of in the summertime where they know, okay, he's the guy going into the season and we need to rally around him. So I think each situation is different. I think both of those philosophies are valid, and it just kind of depends on each situation and where we are. Dow and I haven't talked about it as far as our time frame and wanting to do anything. But like I said, even if there was some sort of announcement after spring practice, like all positions, that position has to continue to prove it and earn it and compete. How was the Masters?
Unreal.
Did you ever leave the media center, or did you actually sit in the media center and just...
I was like never in the media center.
Really?
Yeah.
I hear a lot of guys go over there and they just hang out in the media center all week because it's so nice.
It's hard to leave. I think that's why they built it so nice.
You didn't win the lottery to play on Monday, though, huh?
I did.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, God, we got to talk afterwards.
Yeah.
Congrats. First time?
Yeah. It was.
You got some media members that have been for like 20 years and have never gotten it.
Yeah, that's why I didn't really put it out there
Well,
a lot.
congrats. Well, I'm sorry I just put you on blast nationally as well, but that's awesome.
I know Julie was in the group in front of me. I was like, this is
That's right.
Yeah.
Too cool. That's great. Congrats.
Thank you.
That's
Thank
awesome.
you. What will this draft look like? I mean, are you having captains? Are you guys sitting in a room? Are you coming up to the podium right here and making picks? What is that going to look like?
Yeah, last year it was awesome. Last year we literally, the room next door, the team meeting room was the war room, and both teams were in there, and we had every single player was on the dry erase board, like the draft board, and the whole team was out there in this room outside the tables, and I was the commissioner, and every time a pick was in, we would make the little thing you hear on ESPN when the pick is in. That little thing would jingle, and then I'd walk up to the podium and announce who it was. We'd come up there and take picks and everything like it was draft day, and guys ate and had a great time. It was awesome. We had a ton of fun with it. And then last year, once you got picked, you went into the draft room, and that got a little chaotic because by the end of the night you had two different teams and like 100 players in there trying to we need to pick him. So we split it up and make it a little bit more, even more realistic, where this may be the draft room for one team, this room, and then next door is the other team. I'm still thinking through those things, how to make it fun for our guys, but they loved it last year, had a great time. Lenore Sellers was the number one pick, and immediately he was elevated on this pedestal. Well, he was the number one pick because I think Clint was our head coach. He knew that Lenore was going to play the whole second half as well, and he had earned it, don't get me wrong, but Spencer was going to play for a quarter, I think, so you didn't want to pick Spencer, have him for the first quarter, and then you have no quarterback, so you got to be strategic. But we'll have people that are doing the pick-in. We'll have coaches as well, trying to figure out exactly how we're going to do that, but want to get creative to make it competitive but have a lot of fun. But last year's draft was a lot of fun. Our guys enjoyed it, and this year will be no different.
Shane, EA Sports college football video games coming out, I believe, this summer. So it's been kind of a question if the kids are in it. To your knowledge, do you know about how many of the team have opted into the game?
I do not. I'm sorry. I probably should. No, I haven't heard. So I'm not dodging the question. I have no idea. I haven't heard that anybody hasn't. I haven't heard that anybody has.
And also, is your likeness in there? Do they have to come and get permission for the coach and all that stuff?
If they do, they haven't asked me. So no, I hope it would be. That'd be pretty cool because I grew up playing the game in high school and college, so I would love that. But no one has asked me for anything. So if they want to, they certainly have my permission. That'd be great.
Kind of sticking with the draft, when you're looking at the spring game, but there are certain combinations of guys you want to try to play together? Is there certain groups and maybe you want a specific thing to look? I remember last year there was a thing with like the long snappers or something.
Yeah.
How do you kind of go about making sure you still get your goals done as a coaching staff while the players can kind of have fun with the draft?
Yeah, you got to do that. You kind of got to give them some direction in there that, a team would get carried away. Let's pick this guy, pick this guy, pick this guy. And eventually you'd have to say, hey, y'all don't have a snapper. So if we kick a field goal or punt, you have no one that can do that as well. Then you had one team last year that realized the other team hadn't picked a snapper, so they tried to pick both snappers so the other team wouldn't have a snapper as well. So the players certainly got strategic from that standpoint. But yes, in the other part, there are guys that we'll talk about that today in our staff meeting when we meet at 4 o'clock as a staff. There are certain guys that we want, just from a continuity standpoint, to be able to continue to play together. And we've been mixing and matching everybody on the offensive line, but we don't want to go out there with a left tackle that's never played all spring next to a left guard and a left guard that hasn't played with a center and a center that hasn't played with that right guard. It may not be like the same five that have been together all spring, but particularly in the offensive line, let's have a little bit of continuity as well. So there may be some select head coach picks that this guy has to be with this guy, and if you pick this guy, you are also getting that guy. We'll get all that ironed out today as well.
Coach, I got two for you. First one, I guess, following up on the draft, will you be dividing the coaching staff as well, maybe a couple offensive guys and defensive guys to the other side?
We will. I would imagine Dow would probably call plays for both teams. That's what he did last year, and Clayton the same, but we got other guys that can if Dow chooses not to. But yes, they will be split up on the Garnet team and the Black team, the coaches.
And then another one, follow on about the atmosphere. What are you telling a true freshman that's walking into an atmosphere like that? Obviously, it's not as elevated as a kick in the fall, but it's pretty darn close.
Yeah, one, we talk about just how grateful they should be that they play here at Carolina and they get to play in a spring game with that many people in the stands. And our guys know we're so appreciative of our fan base and what makes this place special. And I was at a Gamecock Club event in Lancaster last night. Saw Hale up there. Thanks for being there, Hale, as well. But told that crowd that I never take for granted that being able to have Gamecock walk a couple hours before the game or whatever time it is, and being able to have that for a spring game, a walk with fans that come out to see the team walk to the stadium. That's more than a lot of teams have for a regular season game. And then to be able to go into that stadium, I never take it for granted and never will. And I don't want our players to, and I know they won't. So one, just how appreciative we are and how cool that is that you get to play at a place like South Carolina. But then two, once the game starts, you got to be able to, block all that out, and you still got to go play football. And that we'll learn a lot about those guys as individuals, and we'll learn a lot about our team on Saturday night. We want it to be fun. There's no doubt about it, and enjoyable for everyone. But we're competing too, and some guys, it's an opportunity to really solidify yourself. You've had a good spring, go finish it on Saturday night. You haven't had the week of practice you want this week, but you get an opportunity on Saturday night to go really show us what you're about. So there's a lot that can come out of it, and that's what we're telling those guys this week.
You mentioned there's a couple spring games around the country that have 100 people. A couple of them have 100,000. Is a spring game more important in your mind for evaluation of your current team, or a chance to show off what you have at this place to recruits that are there?
I think certainly from a recruiting standpoint, when you have recruits that come in our stadium on Saturday and they'll see, tens of thousands of people, that's a great recruiting tool without a doubt. I think most colleges, a lot of them have already had their spring game, guys that we compete against. So I don't want to say we're the only show in town, but we're one of the few spring games this weekend, I think. So we'll have a lot of recruits here because of it, and it's a great opportunity to show them what an atmosphere is like here in Williams-Brice or here in Columbia, South Carolina. But then I wouldn't say it's so much showing us off. It's me having a chance to learn a little bit more about the team and how they produce and or how they perform in environments like that. It's a great opportunity for our fans to be able to see some of these guys for the first time that I'm really, really excited about. Maybe guys that they heard transferred in or freshmen, but then the other guys that maybe they're not as familiar with that I'm really excited about that have had great springs. So it's wanted to be a reward for our players, obviously, but also an awesome opportunity for our fans to see so many of these new faces. And there's a lot of new faces that have been working really, really hard since January, and this is kind of the culmination of it.
Shane, going back to David's question about the transfer portal, I know at the end of the year, I'm sure you guys meet with the team or meet with players individually, have like exit interviews. Has that kind of changed over your coaching tenure, just going back to even your days as an assistant coach? Do you feel like do you guys have exit interviews after the spring, and what is that conversation like with some of these players? Because you are trying to obviously continue to make sure you guys don't leave.
Yeah, I'd say it's the same that it's always been. It's obviously a little bit different because you're having these meetings while the portal is open. There's no question about it. But we've done it every year and have most places I've been. But spring game is on Saturday, and then Monday morning at 7 a.m. I'll start meeting with players. And I don't pick like a select few. I meet with every single player on the team. And it's basically 15-minute increments for 3 straight days from 7 a.m. until whatever time we finish each day. But in those and they're doing the same with the assistant coaches with their players at the position or their position coach. But those meetings for me are how'd you feel like the spring went? We'll talk about academics and finishing up because exams are next week here at Carolina. We'll talk about kind of where they are, strengths, areas to improve, what they need to work on this summer. We'll talk about body weight because they're going to be able to go home a little bit for the month of May, and we don't need a guy that's 300 pounds coming back weighing 340, and we don't need a guy that's 195 coming back weighing 175. So we'll talk about body weight goals and what they're trying to get done this summer, and then we'll be honest with them and tell guys kind of where we see them right now and what their role is. And I don't want to ever trust is a core value of this program, and I don't ever want to lie to someone to keep them around here. I want to be honest and give guys opportunities to go other places and play if they're not going to get the opportunity here to play because of where they are on the depth chart. So we're honest with them, and if there's an issue, let's talk about it in those meetings as well. If there's something that they don't agree with or something they're unhappy with, I want them to tell me in that meeting and not a week later when they've thought about stuff. But I wouldn't say it's really changed, Mike. It's kind of been the same format we've always used, but it's certainly a different dynamic because of what's going on around you. There's no question about it. I mean, every time I look at my phone, there's a different, news about someone at some other school, and got guys that just transferred to schools in January that are back in the portal 3 months later as well. So it's just it's a different time, and but the meetings are still the same, and how we coach these guys are still the same.
Kind of alluded to guys who've played well this spring that could play a lot Saturdays. Is there anyone off the top of your head who's really helped their cause,
like maybe
for Saturday or moving forward?
A new guy,
been around forever, offense, defense, whoever.
Cool, man. You'll see all those running backs. Obviously, Rockets out right now, but Jawarn Howe, DJ Braswell, Oscar Attaway, really good opportunity for those guys, new guys to show what they can do, and they're excited about that as well. Torricelli Simpkins on the offensive line is a guy that probably wasn't very heralded when he came here. We knew we were getting a really good player, but I think he's had a really good spring as well. I know he has. Gerald Kilgore, Jalen's brother, has done some really good things in that transfer group. Where there's no question we're better and we're deeper, we're better, and we're more athletic at linebacker, and that's because of who we returned, Debo and Bam. But then being able to add Wendell Gregory, Fred Johnson, Bengali Kamara, and Demetrius Knight, like that's a really fun group to watch compete on the practice field. So I could go on and on at all positions that I'm excited about. And that's the other thing. It's all these transfers, but it's so many freshmen. I mean, there'll be more true freshmen playing in this game Saturday night than what there was last year because we had a lot of guys. If you stayed, did you stay for the talk last night? Or did you eat and get out? Well, if you had stayed, we talked about the fact, I think I may have said it when I met with you earlier, but we started with 5 true freshmen last season, throughout the year, 2 on the offensive line. And of those 2 offensive linemen, Tro and Tree, they weren't here for spring practice. So you got guys that last year, Tro and Tree and Nick Harbor showed up in the middle of June, went through practice for a couple months, and then they're playing SEC football games. Now we've got essentially our whole freshman class is here except for 3 guys. So what an experience for them to be able to, one, go through spring practice, but get to finish it up with a awesome venue to play in on Saturday night for their development also. So that'll be better for us going forward. So these freshmen I'm excited about. Not a single freshman that I'm looking at and saying, not sure we might have missed on that guy. We're super excited about this freshman class, super excited about the transfers we brought in, and super excited about the returning players that have all, stepped up their game since they came back. So I'm excited for everybody, Hill. I gave you a couple names, though. Phil?
Thank you. As you mentioned, you started your tour last night. What kind of questions are you getting from the fans coming off of 5 and 7? Do they still seem very supportive? Do they still feel encouraged about what you're doing? What kind of feedback did you get last night?
It was a packed house last night at the Catawba Fish Camp, and we got the greatest fans in America that I don't know if they've ever been more excited about Gamecock athletics.
At cornerback, I guess my assumption this past January was like, hey, that could be a position where they try to get some guys from the portal, but didn't seem like y'all were all that active. And of course, you got a bunch of young guys who are competing for spots. Was that part of the thought? Is like, hey, there are a bunch of young guys on this team that we feel pretty good about, or
at corner, you say?
Yeah, cornerback.
Yeah, there is. Obviously, O'Donnell's kind of the old guy in that room and returns as a starter. Excuse me. And then Emery Floyd, Vicari, and Judge are doing a great job of competing over there at that other spot. And then really both spots. I mean, they're all working different spots in there. But Jalewis Solomon will join us in the summertime. So we feel like between O'Donnell, those 3 guys that are here right now, and Jalewis, that gives you a solid group right there as well, along with the other guys. David Spalding was working at corner. He's a little banged up right now, but David's played corner and is working corner right now. Jace Blackshear is out there doing some good things as well. So you never can have enough cover guys. There's no question about it, but we like the young group that we have in there right now, and excited to watch them continue to get better and compete without a doubt. Is that what you were essentially asking? Okay.